What is going on, guys? Today we are looking at Road to the Final Ndidi. He is the Leicester CDM and is 86 rated. He's had a little bit of an upgrade, to be honest. He's managed to get a couple of +2s, 1 +3 and 1 +4 on his statted card. And to be honest, he was one of them ones that really stood out at the start of FIFA, his 84. Now we've got his 86. It's going to be very interesting, as obviously he is quite a nice DM. He's not necessarily the greatest DM for the Prem, but definitely now he's got an 86 that has the potential to go up, and Leicester could definitely do well in the Europa. To be honest, they could really kind of push for it. I don't remember seeing them in the Europa before. I know they have obviously been in before. They've managed to win the Premier League, so obviously they've been Champions League. They've more than likely been Europa before. I don't really keep too many facts on them, but could they go forward? Ndidi's 86 already. If they did manage to somehow win the Europa League, obviously we're looking at a 90-91 Ndidi, and that's always the end goal. And it's one thing you've got to always think: how soon do I either have to get out of this card, or what are my expectations for this card? If I'm looking at someone like Sevilla last year, as they progressed forward, you've got that Diego Carlos card. I've got a centre-back on my hands right now, so Ndidi could be the same. He's an 86, he's a very nice 86, and obviously the price has dipped down a hell of a lot since I was kind of pre-recorded this video. I was debating whether to do it again, but I had a comment on, I think it's Deco's video from Jamie, and I thought, you know what, it's meant to be. So let's get into this and get into the in-games. So if we do look at Ndidi, 3-star skills, 4-star weak foot, so pretty bog standard there for a kind of DM sort of player. 6 foot, right-footed, and he's got a lean body type. So to be honest, everything's pointing in the right direction for him. I think he's got a high defensive work rate with a medium attacking. Not bad at all. 73 pace is the only thing I think that really lets him down, bar from his agility and balance. If we do look at them then, so we'll go for kind of like the worst stats first, and then we'll look at obviously his defense, his physical, which are his main attributes. His pace can be sorted with a shadow, can be sorted with a catalyst, an anchor, a hunter. They're not necessarily unusable for that. Shooting wise, disregard. He's a DM. I'm quite happy to keep him as that kind of holding DM, and he doesn't go anywhere else. Passing wise, I'd expect a little bit better. Personally, for me as a DM sort of player, we don't need crossing. Free kick accuracy is always a nice one, but again, I'm not expecting him to shoot, so I don't really need that. Curve, it's always a nice bonus. The main ones we're looking at: vision, short pass, long pass. His short pass is decent, it's above average. Long pass is probably a bang on average, and his vision's probably coming under par for me. I think that's one stat that obviously as he goes up in rating, I would like to see the big upgrade for. Dribbling wise, agility balance it's average, it's not amazing. He is 6 foot, so I'm expecting it to be a bit lower. I would like it to increase as well. Obviously, as we keep going with the ratings, we're going to keep finding these cards and really trying to see where they started and where they kind of are going and what sort of stats are being upgraded. That's mainly going to be the reviews for next time. It's almost like seeing a little player review. It's like an update review more than anything, because we know how the player is. If he gets a +1, what I'm looking for is what stats have increased and what has the difference been. Is there any difference? If he gets an upgrade of +1, his agility balance, does it go up by +1? Can you really notice a difference on a +1? It's one thing that I always struggle with, because there isn't a huge amount to kind of really go off unless they've got a position change. For instance, a Marcus Rashford left mid compared to a striker. The stat wise are relatively similar. He's very meta. He's kind of great on that striker anyway. But the difference is he is now a striker. He's more in demand. He's more kind of like in that position where everybody wants him. In terms of his defending then, this is where it really gets good. In fact, we have got 91 reactions, which is always good, and 83 composure, which again, at this moment in time, so I'm quite happy with that. Physical, 92 jumping, 94 stamina, perfect. 80 strength, it's good, it's decent. 89 aggression, fantastic. 86 on the overall, not a problem at all. 89 defending, 78 head and accuracy, dropping it down quite a bit, but we have got 92 interceptions, 91 stand, 89 defensive awareness, and 87 slide tackle. The card has got defense for days. Now I think the main one people are going to go for is the shadow. it really bumps up that DM role, turns him into an 89 DM or even a 92 centre-back if you really wanted. So it depends on what you want him for. I think you genuinely could play this guy as a centre-back, but the problem is having to either play him off-chem or playing him as a DM, swapping him out and then having to kind of move him around. I like to have a team on, and if I want to move the position, I've kind of got that covered already in another position. In terms of catalyst, turns him into an 88 CDM still. I think he only goes down by 1. Centre-back wise doesn't really help, but you do get that passing boost. That for me is another great one to look at, and I think it could be used very nicely just because obviously we've already got a lot of defending, we've already got great physical, we do need a bit of pace and we do need a bit of passing. It's only really then his dribbling is the next sort of step, which I suppose you could go with like something like an engine, still keeps him at an 88 DM, doesn't quite give him the same amount of pace, but he gives him dribbling, passing and pace at the same time. I think they are 3 viable options. Personally for me, I think Shadow would be the common one, because as a DM, do you really need to pass it? As long as he can oof it out, you're quite happy. If you need someone with a bit more passing, maybe you're kind of pushing up a little bit more with him, then I think a Catalyst would do well. Engine's a nice overall, but I think it's more for CM, if anything, rather than DM. So let's get into some gameplay, see what he did for me. With Ndidi then, he comes in on pretty much, I think it's a rivals games, a couple of rivals, we managed to pick him up, and we're already playing with a Premier League team, so it's quite happy to fit him in quite nicely. And I think the one thing I've noticed about him, really good at holding that defensive line. I've played with Kante, I've played with him, I've played with most of the Prem now, it's just a couple left, but I think he's definitely up there in terms of DM capabilities. I think for me, if you're looking at them sort of kind of defensive roles, I think Kante's always the one everyone looks at, because it's just a breath of fresh air with it. He is brilliant, and it's a shame we don't have him at Leicester still with the same sort of rating, because him and Ndidi together with that strong link would have been absolutely phenomenal. But I think Ndidi definitely comes up there. He is the same sort of price now, and I think 200k is a lot more viable for him. When I was doing this review, which will be on the end screen, he was 400k, which for me is just far too expensive. So it's nice to do the review like kind of like even a couple of days after he's come out, because it's nice to see where he's actually at now, rather than kind of saying 400k is too expensive, he'll drop down. At least I know that when I do say that, he is going to drop down, and it is just a promo. The first promo, or second promo, whatever you want to call it, one to watch, the same live cards, they're always going to be expensive, especially to start with. We've had no lightning rounds, no nothing like that. They're always going to be expensive, and especially the live version. As we get into more promos, they're going to become more affordable. We're going to have upgrade packs, hopefully have League SBCs, and obviously there will be lightning rounds. So there'll be plenty of these cards being packed, meaning they're going to be a better value straight off the bat. We've seen Kane go for 1.5 mil. We've seen Salah go for 1.2. Believable, but again, that's a lot of coins, and you could go get an Mbappe for that. It's a very, very interesting time to be on FIFA at the moment, and it's nice to see that coins or players are starting to go down, do go into the overall. As I said on this end screen, it is when I did it straight off the bat, he was 405k. So now we're looking at a card who's 203 or 230, 215 Xbox to PlayStation. Much more affordable, and genuinely not a bad little card to have. So if we do go in Premier League, we'll look at CM to CDMs. What are we looking at? Kante 290. He is probably the best DM you can get in the Prem. It's just without a doubt. Links, ability, and price, he's fantastic. You got Fabinho. For me, the pace is too low. It's far too low in my opinion. Henderson, again, the same sort of kind of rating. I've pictured him more as a CM, but DM does make sense for him. Pogba's a CM more than anything. And then we've got Ndidi. Other than that, Rodri's pace is too low. Thiago's too low. Wijnaldum could do it, but I think again he lacks that defensive ability. He's obviously could put a shadow on him, but it's still nowhere near the capability of Ndidi. For me, that is exactly where Ndidi fits in, the second best CDM, and the fact that he is obviously a live card. That's what makes this card so much more interesting, because he could be 2-3 rounds away from being better than Kante. Links wise, not as much, but genuinely how he plays, and if you've got a Prem team, he could be better than Kante. It's without a doubt possible. Will they go through? That is something we'll see over the next few weeks, and hopefully they give him a good upgrade. As we can see from a 2 upgrade, we've managed to get 3 agility and 3 balance, a lot of 3s and 4s around practically. Pace is 2, so that every time will go up by 1, which is understandable. We can still put a shadow on him, we could still put a catalyst on him. As long as we get them stats upgraded fairly and nicely, then this card genuinely could be something special. And hopefully as we keep going forward, we will kind of come back to him, have a look at what he's all about, make sure that we are getting the kind of best value for our coins in terms of these road to the final cards. And basically, are they being upgraded well? If you've not upgraded them well, you may as well go for maybe an informed version later on in the year. You may as well go for Conte. But hopefully you did enjoy this video. I've given him an 8.5. I feel like he's a strong candidate for a DM in Premier League, and definitely a card worth looking at, having a look at, maybe just before he comes out of packs, if he's not already. I don't personally know what time he's actually coming out. It might be Friday, so I'd be very interested to see what sort of price he is after rewards on Thursday. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. That's it all for the next one. Peace.